everyone. We have two interplanetary souls that I think you will find quite unique and quite provocative. Let me just make a few comments before I bring one of our guests in about IP souls and the Interplanetary Council. So first, remember, and this is what you're going to hear a lot about as you listen to our guests, IPs are highly skilled. They come from highly evolved locations, or you come from highly evolved locations, and you come to Earth because you bring your advancement, because humanity needs your advancement. Remember, you're not a 10 on a scale of 10, but you're highly evolved if you're IP. Some IPs have past lives on Earth, past life somewhere other than on Earth. Some IPs don't have past lives at all. We're going to talk about this. And what you're going to hear about in much detail as we bring our guests in here in a moment, as both guests are here, are what's it like to be an IP? What's it like to have had the unique challenges as well as skills that our guests have? Okay, let me introduce you to both of our lovely guests. Okay, all right, so Heidi, I'm going to read what you sent to me, so hang in there with me. Heidi is a woman with multi-layered leadership abilities. She's an advocate, a public speaker, a healer, and a diligent clinician. Heidi lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where her talents are utilized as a regional program director for a community behavioral health agency. Sacred Lakota teachings and ceremony have been a part of her life for over 25 years. She's a lodge keeper, a sun dancer, and a Chanunpa, if I'm saying that right, carrier. Heidi's passionate about bringing her spiritual and interdimensional experiences to light to help others. Breaching the divide of traditional mental health theories and the overlap of consciousness experiences is of particular interest to Heidi. And these are my words, Heidi. I wrote, Heidi's interplanetary soul experiences may, I probably should say may not will, sadden you, and also will be provocative about how IPs can be so terribly misunderstood and mislabeled. So Heidi, thank you for being with us, and let's just be sure we can hear you.
Thank you, Linda. I'm very grateful to be here with everybody.
I am thrilled. I'm thrilled to have both of you because I think that your stories are powerful, your stories are unique, and I think are going to help all of us. And I think Heidi and Jane, who I'll introduce in just a second, let me introduce now Jane to you. And let me just say, so as you all know, don't worry about it. This is not her real name. Fictitious name, Jane Smith, MD, is a research scientist at a major US medical facility. Jane has embodied on Earth very few times, and thus she struggles with significant physical challenges, and I'm sure other challenges, which Jane, you can explain to us, in the human body. Jane could be described as a child soul in the healthiest of ways. And that's a really important piece. In the healthiest of ways to teach humanity how to accept pure love and pure joy. You will find Jane's experiences to be powerful, difficult, and unspeakably purposeful. So Jane, glad you're here. Let's be sure we can hear you.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I am so glad you're here. And just because I know a little bit about what's been going on for you, stay as long as you feel comfortable. And when it feels like that needs to end, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, I'm going to pose questions now. This is just going to kind of be a conversation, everybody, with Heidi, with Jane. We're going to converse. We're going to go into detail. So, Heidi and Jane, here's my question. We'll start with you, Heidi, and then we'll shift to you, Jane. First question, what were the earliest signs in your life that you, even though you probably didn't understand, Heidi and Jane, you didn't perhaps understand being an interplanetary soul, what were the earliest signs in your life that you were IP? So Heidi, start with you.
Well, when I look back, childhood, and as you say, Linda, it seems you just feel a little different. And you know, I would be asked, you know, why are you staring at the sky, or, you know, where are you? Are you here? Or, you know, come back to us, and stuff like that. When I was little, there really isn't too much, you know, in my childhood, but when I turned about 18, I really started experiencing walking in two worlds. And that whole time was really the turning point, and I've just been picking that apart since.
Okay, good. And everybody, I'm sure you probably would assume I've done regression with both Heidi and Jane, and that's how I know their stories, their circumstances, their challenges. So Heidi, quick question. When I do regression and ultimately discover I'm working with an interplanetary soul, it is quite common for me to have the client say, yes, when I was a young child, my favorite thing to do was to stare out the window at the night sky. Was that your situation, Heidi?
Yeah, day or night. Yeah,
day or night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, perfect. Okay, good. So Jane, let's switch to you for a second. We'll come back, Heidi, because I want you to talk about age 18 onward. Jane, for you, were there signs that you didn't understand perhaps, but were there signs prior to age 18 when you knew there was something very different about you?
Yeah, I don't remember a time I didn't feel abnormal. So I would guess since early childhood, at least as far as I can remember. I remember since, you know, as far back as I can remember, feeling like I was dumped in the wrong house and was in the wrong family. And ever since I can remember, I was always dreaming about there was another family or another place I was supposed to be, and I kept waiting for it. And I also, I sat at windows, I stared out windows, got in a lot of trouble at school. I used to leave out my window at night and just roam. So far back as I can remember, and I kept waiting to be rescued, and I didn't really know what that meant. I just never felt at home where I was.
So stay with you. We'll just, again, I'll just go back and forth. Jane, for you, at what point did the nature of your soul begin to show itself?
I guess why the best I could name it is child soul. I gave it that name because I started noticing as I was aging, human aging, and surrounded by my peers that were growing up and maturing and everything else, I felt so I started to realize even more how abnormal I was or how abnormal I felt. And it started to feel like everything was an act, like I was wearing this human body costume and I had to keep up. And I was always so worried of getting found out that that I was, you know, all my lingo was, you know, different inside. And I felt like if I would have, I don't look in mirrors much because I expect to see my little human self. And that, it's really hard for me to describe all of this. And I've only, you know, done it a couple of times, as you know, Linda. So I apologize if I stumble on the words, but the best way to put it is I was watching all of the people around me grow and mature, and I wasn't, and I couldn't keep up, but I knew I had this passion to go into medicine. I knew that in order to do that, I had to hide my soul. I didn't call it that at the time. I had to hide who I was. It kept shoving me down deeper and deeper so I could fake act my way through everything. And so I learned how to just watch other people and act like them. And it feels like I've been acting my whole life. So.
Right. And I'll just say, and as each of you kind of reveals what you've gone through and who you learned that you were, I think, is this correct, Jane, that there are only two people that you know that really know who you are at the core of your soul? Is that correct?
That's correct. And I never ever thought I would find anyone I would share this with. I knew from early on, or I expected from early on, that this was not to be shared in this lifetime. So a lot of my dreaming into being and my imaginations was what I was hoping would happen in the next lifetime. I kind of always just knew and expected there was a next lifetime. And I thought maybe I'm supposed to be here this way to do things in medicine or research, or I don't know what, but that was supposed to be why I'm here now, but that I didn't get to be me, real me, here in this lifetime. And then I happened to find someone. I believe I was delivered to this person because I was crashing and don't know if I would have made it here on this earth. I was delivered to someone who was very open, and it felt right to share with. And I believe she saved my life, my human life. And then you're the second person.
Yeah. I mean, I feel, I've said this to you, Jane, before, but I feel honored and blessed to be understanding who you are at the core, Jane. And this is going to be true of Heidi as well. It's just that Heidi's story, which we'll come to in a minute, is different than Jane's. Okay, I know this is kind of tricky because I wanted both of you here, and I know it's tricky. Might have been easier for people to understand if only one of you is here, but both of you have, in my opinion, very, not just powerful stories, but stories to help us understand the uniqueness of interplanetary souls. So just hang with us, Jane, if you will, because I want you to share a bit more. So, okay, Heidi, let's come to you for a second.
Well,
so,
I just want to, I actually appreciate hearing Jane's story, and I just wanted to elaborate a little bit because I really can relate to a lot of what she said. And, you know, it makes me feel a little emotional just to hear it too, because, you know, for 20 years, I didn't share anything with anybody because I was put in numerous institutions, you know, because people didn't know what to do with me when I was going through that time, and when I was walking in all these other dimensions of reality that I was trying to negotiate. So when that happened in my life, I was traumatized by that whole experience. And in fact, actually, when that was happening, and when I was put in those institutions, I would actually see more dark entities when they would give me those medicines. So, and I'm not modern medicine is helpful, don't get me wrong, but not in my case. And nobody really understood it. And I never really felt understood. And so for 20 years, I didn't tell anybody, and went through what I was going through. And in fact, as I began to share it, it does seem like there's deep understandings. Like Linda has just been an incredible ally, and just being able to hone in and really put into context what it means, what all of this means, and interpreting it in this reality, because sometimes it's really hard to find the words and, filter all this stuff into this form, into this realm. So that I've appreciated very much, but it can be challenging, and even professionals, in this field and in the field that I'm in, that's why I'm drawn to it, because I feel like there's there's so many more layers of a person than we really can grasp in this. Yeah.
So Heidi, tell us a little bit about what happened. In other words, what was going on? This is, such a broad perspective of understanding people. And, another reason I chose Heidi and Jane is they both work in the world, Jane a bit more than Heidi, but still, both of you work in the world of some degree of conventional medicine or alternative medicine. So Heidi, tell us a little bit about what was going on. I'm trying to think of how to word this. When you when people misunderstood you and were labeling you, and you ending up in facilities, and people were, what was going?
I call it the wandering years, because I was really wandering for years, and it was I just felt this need to just leave all my belongings behind and put on my backpack and wander, and that, I guess, isn't a normal thing. So I was expected to kind of do the normal thing, and I didn't at all. So I changed pretty dramatically, at that time in my life. And so what was happening is that these other dimensions of reality that I could see and tune into. And this was the time when I started getting connected to now what I identify as, the interplanetary realm that I'm connected to. And, golden light beings is what I would call them before. But they were communicating, and then other layers of reality were communicating. And forgive me, it is still a little hard to share this with a lot of people. So, it's how do you interpret that? How do you tell people that? I didn't understand it, and then I had these deep. It was like a level of oneness and connection to these different dimensions that was so profound that I just lost my connection to this one. I don't know if that makes sense.
That makes complete sense. So, quick question, Heidi. Let me see how to say this, because what I hear you saying, Heidi, is that we're there. I think from working with you, Heidi, it sounds like there were two things going on for you as you moved through this 20-year period. One was this awareness, this bond, this connection with where you come from, this pure soul energy where you come from that's evolved. I also remember us working on some challenging past life energy that at times was getting in the way. Is that correct, or am I not remembering that accurately?
Yeah, when you I think where you're going is when you're open to at that level, then you're open to everything, and there's always both.
Yes.
So it's negotiating all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, can be
Okay.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's flip back for a second. So Jane, because now what I'd like each of you to do, as best you can, is talk about what for each of you, talk about what you know, and in this case, you, Jane, what do you know about the nature of the place where your soul comes from that is pure and healthy and unique?
Okay. First of all, Heidi, I just want to say I like the way you put the wandering years, because I've been a wanderer myself. So that really, that sounds right to me. I knew absolutely nothing about interplanetary souls, anything, until about 4 years ago. I was seeing someone nearby, just for some counseling, trying to find out more about why I feel the way I do, and what all, as I would put it, what's wrong with me? Why do I feel like a freak? I had said the statement, I just have never felt like I belong here. And this woman said to me, well, you don't, you're a starseed. And I was like, what in the world is a starseed? I've never heard of that before. And that's when she told me what she knew. And I started looking into it, reading about it. And I found Linda's book, one of her books. And as I was reading that, I was just like, every sentence I'd be like, yes, 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 that's me. And things just started clicking and making more sense. And it all sounded, it just made sense more than anything has in my entire life, I guess, about life here on Earth. And so still at that point, I had no idea. I believed I was a starseed, an interplanetary soul. I just didn't know much more about that. And that's why I sought out Linda for a regression session. And so that was just about a year ago, maybe. And so that's the very first I learned anything at all. And I don't know what all, I didn't know if I'd be able to do the regression, with Zoom, and it actually, so it amazed me how deep I got into it and how much came to me with all my barriers up. So what came to me, and what I was told, what I felt and saw and heard, is, and I don't know what all, is exact, is for sure, other than what came to me felt comforting, and it felt like it could make more sense than anything else I've heard, but what came to me and was that I came from a planet where there were a lot of other child souls. I don't know if there were any other adult souls or not. In my regression, there was not. But when I thought about that later, I was trying to figure out how then do us souls take care of ourselves? How does all of that work? I probably asked way too many questions, but all my life too, I just wondered, and this is before I knew anything about interplanetary souls, is why am I here this way? Whatever way I am, however this is defined. And I tried to make it different psychiatric diagnoses. I read about everything. I tried to figure out, do I have a dissociative disorder? And nothing fit. And I wanted it to. I swear life would be a lot easier. But nothing fit until I read Linda's work and talked to Linda. And so I don't totally know what all is for sure with where I come from. But I do believe that, I think there's so many different kinds of souls, now in our country and in our world, different souls, transgender souls, all kinds of different ways of being. And I believe there's so many more to uncover. So it's like, it makes sense to me that my belief is that souls are meant to come here and stay in the more childlike form in order to keep that part intact. And it's a big struggle to be that way here on Earth, because you're in an adult body and there are adult expectations and all these other things. So I always feel like where I came from must have been so peaceful and so free and not in human form and full of fun and playing and joy. And I seek that so badly, and it's hard to come by here.
Jane, that's beautiful. I love how you're explaining this, and you know it and feel it in ways I don't. But my sense is, or my sense has been when I've worked with you, is that, and you tell me, Jane, if this is valid or not, that your soul, so I think everybody in this group understands, or at least what I've understood through a whole variety of regressions with people, is that an interplanetary soul has what I call a home base somewhere in the celestial realm, and it's infinite, it's vast. And my understanding, Jane, is that your soul comes from a place where the beauty of the child, oh my gosh, if we think about children, there's the inquisitive nature, there's the playful nature, there's the loving nature, there's, if we think about the beauty of a child, that, and so Jane, you tell me if this fits, is that where your soul comes from, which Jane, honestly, I think is valid, is a place where the souls don't lose that healthy child energy and perspective. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what it felt like with our regression. And when I think about my time here on Earth, I can think of many, many times where it has felt like a blessing and a curse. Mostly the curse is that I have to hide so much. I feel like I just am shoved down, deep inside here. But I'm intact in certain ways, and there's many times I have seen by having the curiosity and the innocence, or I just don't see things the way other people do so much of the time, but it has resulted in big things happening, good things happening. So it makes sense to me that that's so needed. And so that has driven me to hang on and stay here despite so many challenges, when I see the good that can result from that. That makes sense to me that there needs to be more of that here. And it just, as people go into adulthood, and so much, the child spirit, which is it's a different thing, but it's the part that it remains in everybody, but it gets beaten out and shoved down and so lost. So it would make sense to me that there'd be a planet of child souls, and different planets of different whatever souls that are so needed here.
Yes, and as you just said, Jane, and the learning that we can gain by not losing all of that child I love your words. You know, you use two words that I think fit so well: child curiosity and child innocence, that get so layered over once this body gets beyond being a child and our bodies become adults. Yeah.
So many
Yeah.
boxes and numbers and so many things that I don't understand, but that's how it is here. And it's so limiting and icky.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll come back to you, Jane. So Heidi, share with us, you know, Jane has kind of given us a picture of the nature, what I would call the nature of her soul. What have you learned that helped you, Heidi, as you navigated some pretty challenging life circumstances to get to the point of embracing who you are at the core and the nature of your soul?
Well, you know, of course, the work that we've done, Linda, has been tremendously helpful. And I think, you know, when I first started having those visions and walking in different realities, I also had visions, and I think, you know, Earth is, you know, we're here to learn and help and, you know, all of that. But what I've come back around to is kind of, you know, I was brought up Lutheran, right? So I had this lens of religion. So that was my filter when I was seeing these things and going through these things. And now, you know, coming back around to the IP soul, and I too have had the same experiences, you know, with Linda's books, and just feeling like this is actually this fits. And sometimes I just wake up at night and read them to feel comforted, you know. But it, you know, it was very just out of nowhere. The Arcturian, you know, just came. It came literally out of nowhere. So, well, somewhere, but so in working with that, actually being able to identify with that, and then all of the beautiful, you know, conscious beings on this planet, just with all of their stories, and fitting all of that into the puzzle, is how I've been able to tap into, you know, who I really am, and identify with that, and be able to raise that vibration. And you know, the struggles have also, you know, allowed me to sink in deeper to that connection, and know that that's what matters, and be able to connect to that amongst the challenges, for me, is really important. And so figuring all of that out has been very helpful, because there's so many, like we've said, the difficulties here, but on you know, in another kind of frame of that, you know, there's all of this belief of like wrongdoing and sin and, you know, all that stuff attached to religion, that, you know, I think that you just have to continue to free yourself from. And I think that in doing that, and then working with clients, and being able to incorporate that work into helping people work with shame, and, you know, feeling wrong because you're not the status quo, you didn't do the normal thing, you know, has been very helpful. And being able to identify who those beings were that were coming to me, and just even thinking about meeting today and going back to those times, and then tapping into it again now, because I can still go there to a degree, not like it was, but that's all been helpful. I hope that, I don't know if I went on too many different
No, that's all good. That's all good. Tell us a little bit about, Heidi, coming to understand these beings, and as you just mentioned, tell us a bit more about, as you came to understand these beings, what did you discover? You know, who are these beings and what is their purpose?
Well, I mean, I believe that, you know, they're carrying the light, and that's really, in essence, you know, what we're here to do. And, you know, I think that they do that on a level that we can't really, I can't comprehend at this time. But they do it on a whole nother plane. But if we're here doing it, that's what we're here to do. And so I can't really go into specifics, but other than the things that I've heard, because I can just speak from my experiences, but what I know is that the things that I've heard since I've had these experiences have made a lot of sense to me in terms of broader interplanetary kind of dualistic situations, and down to the dualism we face here on our planet. I just think it happens on a larger scale.
Yeah, you know, the overlap I hear as you talk, Heidi, and Jane, as you talk, is, it's hard to find the right words, but is that humanity, this is going to make it sound a little dramatic, but I think it's true. Humanity in so many ways has lost that the purity, and that many of us, including you, Heidi, and you, Jane, that in our life agreements, in our current life, that we've agreed to do what we can to hold the energy, carry the energy, teach the energy, speak the energy, whatever it is, of pure light. And pure light is obviously is pure truth. Pure light is the pure light of the way children are. But we've lost that in so many ways on our planet, not obviously not 100%. And bringing that light back in and looking at, I mean, there's a zillion ways we could define pure light, but one way I would define pure light is that all people are equal, and all people's needs matter. And unfortunately, that's one of the roads we're leaning toward in humanity. So that the overlap I hear in what you're saying, Heidi, and you're saying, Jane, is to bring that pure light. But your souls, Heidi and Jane, come from these highly evolved, we might say, cultures. And then you're kind of hit with, okay, I came into body on Earth, and children's energy, you know, well, I'm an adult, so I shouldn't be childlike, or I don't know if I'm saying this clearly at all, but I just feel the power of what each of you have been guided to bring. I'd like each of you, Jane and Heidi, to share in a bit of core detail, if you will, what you've dealt with, either emotionally or physically, by the, in my opinion, virtue of being an IP soul in a human body, and how that has been uniquely challenging to be here on Earth in a human body. So, Jane, would you share whatever you wish to share about what you've dealt with that has been challenging about being in a human body?
Sure. Since I was little, I've had a lot of different GI and nervous system issues. Some of which have been common, some of which have been rare, but it seems like my whole life has been spent dealing with some type of medical issue, and which have become chronic now. And so that's just been continual, ongoing. I can actually feel myself internalize stress. I literally like feel it, and I don't know how to stop it. And I mean, I've looked into everything, but I think what is at the core of it too is it's not just I'm so disconnected from my body. I feel like I can feel I feel disconnected and buried in here. And it literally, so like when I'm alone, I can come out, take my costume off, I can be myself, I can feel things, but most of your life is out there and around people and working and living, and the costume gets so heavy. And so you're not only internalizing normal everyday life things, but you're internalizing the pain of hiding, and internalizing the fear of, will they catch on that I'm not right, that I'm faking stuff, that I'm everything from literally how I want to sit. I can be in, just for example, in a meeting, and how I would want to sit would be how a child would want to sit. And so I'm having to control physical movements even. And that probably sounds so weird and crazy, but that has been my whole life, is I'm always aware of how I have to come across, how I have to look, how I have to behave. And none of it feels right. None of it feels normal. And so I can only imagine what that's doing internally. So yeah, a lot of chronic health issues, particularly GI and nervous system.
And Jane, just one more quick question before we switch to you, Heidi. What led you, Jane, what led you to decide to become a medical doctor?
That's interesting, because it was just given, it came to me. I've always wanted it. I have no idea why. No one in my family is in the medical field. It was almost like I was just told to do that, or it was a knowing. Not told by anyone else, but I don't know if there's guides that told me or what. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I felt like that was my purpose here, and that I knew from a very young age.
So I just want to highlight that, because when you say, oh, I wanted to sit in the chair, and maybe you wanted to pull your legs up and sit, cross-legged in a chair because that just felt more normal for you. And it's like, oh, adults don't do that. And yet the what do I want to say? The perspective of, you come from a place in the spiritual realm where the beauty of the child is almost a permanent, I'm going to say a permanent condition, meaning that in the most positive of light. And yet, for whatever reasons, you're guided to become a medical doctor. And so that's, medical doctors can't be children, and yet you fit those, I mean, not easily, but you are both. And I'll just say very quickly, and then I want to add anything, Jane, you want to add in, we'll switch to you, Heidi. But I remember years ago asking my guides. It's like, you know, after I was doing this kind of spiritual work for many years, I asked my guides, it's like, so why was I just wasting my time becoming a psychologist, becoming a conventional psychologist before I stepped into doing this weird spiritual work? And my guides just screamed back at me and said, absolutely not, Linda, you were not wasting your time. That was a step on your journey to become this, to train in this conventional mode. So I'm sure the same is true for you as well, Jane. So Jane, do you want to add anything else in before we let Heidi answer the same question?
I guess going back to the physical part and about when you're talking about how people, you know, understand the wanting to sit differently, and I imagine too with other people here, if anyone has the same sensation I've had my entire life of so often I just want to rip my body off. You know, I don't want to be in my body. I just feel so limited and claustrophobic, and I have felt that since way back when, and before I knew anything about anything. And I always thought, I am such a freak, you know, what is that? But that's from way back when, and it has persisted. And so bodies are very limiting, but it is how we get to be here on this earth. So I'm trying to learn better how to connect to my body so that I can try to stay healthier to remain here, but definitely a challenge, that disconnect feeling for sure.
Mm-hmm. That makes total sense to me. That makes complete sense. Okay, so Heidi, share some of the greatest challenges, whether they're physical challenges, emotional challenges. Yeah.
I think the greatest for me would be on the emotional side. And I think that, you know, I think that we all are sometimes unaware of how other people's feelings can kind of bleed into our psyches. So I think that, and part of what I've learned in practice through a lot of hard lessons, you know, is I need to take care of myself too. I have this huge drive to take care of others. And to the point where I neglect myself and I get totally ruined. And I actually have gone through that recently, which led me to develop my own practice finally, because I was just giving and giving to, to things and people, organizations and such that would just leave me dry of everything I had. And so I think that just being sensitive, I personally, I've just felt the need to give and help and give and help and give and help. And because people are suffering, and I've just felt this huge need to do that in my work. And I've, and that's been really hard to not do. Just from the, I even think back as I'm talking, even when I was homeless and giving away my last $5 to somebody, it's just this thing that hasn't been beneficial to me because it's left me depleted in many ways. And I think that that's a way that I've been exploited to a degree because of my sensitivity and drive to help and support and heal and help people. So that's been a hard one for me. And I've really worked with just even entering a room and noticing how that affects me. Just, kind of shielding and protecting more and just more balance, not withholding by any means, but more balance and protection. Because I just feel very, very sensitive to other people's pain, and other people's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, good, perfect. Thank you. That again makes total sense. It's the skills, what I always call skills and challenges. IP souls are highly skilled and often highly challenged. And that's not to say that's not true of an earth-based soul or an angelic realm soul, but I just think that's an important piece, because of, if you're an interplanetary soul, you don't resonate well, if at all, with the Earth's energy. If you're an EB soul, you at least resonate with the Earth's energy, and you've probably been here numerous times. If you're an angelic realm soul, you resonate with the Earth's energy only because the angelic realm serves the Earth. But that's not true of IP souls that come here to bring your wisdom. Thank you, Jane and Heidi too, as you share so candidly. So let's and we're only going to go another 2 or 3 minutes with Jane and Heidi, because that was my agreement with both of you. I'll read these out loud. 2 questions. First, for you, Jane. Jane, how did you survive medical school with all of its challenges?
I for some reason was gifted with a photographic memory. I can memorize things very easily. And I loved it. So, it's not that you stay a child in your education or memory. As you're here on Earth, you're learning. So, I guess I'm just lucky that was my passion and it came easy. And then there was a knowing that that's where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing. So the educational part of it was awesome. That was not the challenge. The challenge was acting like a medical student with my peers, with, all the social stuff.
I want you, that's beautiful, Jane. I want each of you to think about your skills and your challenges, because that's what you, Jane, just talked about. Each of us came into body as evolved souls. You guys know, none of you are young souls. And we came with skills and challenges that are purposeful. So I have little doubt that for you, Jane, that you, the photographic memory, the intellectual capability, that was all planned. But I want everybody to think about, yes, you have challenges. I would say that too. And yes, I have skills. I would say that too. Next question, Heidi, have you found a way not to take on this great question? Let's see what you say, Heidi. Have you found a way not to take on the difficult emotions of your clients and other people you interact with?
Yeah, it's what I found is, and even what's got me through those difficult times is meditation and taking care of myself, and doing the ceremony, the sweat lodge ceremonies I do, and in those ways have been very, very helpful in protecting me. Yeah.
We're all old enough, I think, to know this, even if we don't do it as well as we might, is to make sure we take care of ourselves in the ways that work the best for us. And that's crucial. And can we get overwhelmed by, working and forgetting to do that, or just, leaving that aside? But yes, I think that's just crucial.
It's true for everybody, and connecting and connecting to the energy that's here for us, and connecting to our higher power and soul and conscious. I mean, that's all critical. And I think also noticing when you're exposing yourself to situations that take away from that too much, and you get caught up too much in your head and stress, and noticing how to protect yourself even physically from those things, and drawing back from those things.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Beautifully said. I mean, you all know it's sort of like it takes one to know one. In other words, going through that you might say dark night of the soul is what educates us to then learn and bring skills forward. Okay, well, I want to just close. First of all, I want you all to notice that in the chat Heidi has put her new website into the chat box. So please notice supportforhealing.com. It's the private work that Heidi does. And please go take a look at I've looked at your website. It's beautiful. It's well stated. It's powerful. You'll all get a sense of the modalities with which Heidi works. And you've all heard Heidi talk about her being steeped in shamanic practice. And so please, everybody, go take a look at Heidi's website. Well, I want to just say to you, Heidi, and you, Jane, it is a great honor for me to have each of you here and being willing to share what you've gone through, what you, in many ways, you continue to go through in your life in order to be here on the planet and to be candid about who you are, what you do, why you're here. So thank you, Heidi and Jane. Let me just give you each an opportunity to add anything in if you want before we close with each of you. So Heidi, I'll let you go first if you want to add anything.
Oh, I just was saying, you know, it's healing to be able to share. You know, it really is. So I really just appreciate being able to do that. And everybody's time and attention this evening to my story.
So Heidi, thank you so much for, sharing your life, sharing your story with us. And Jane, the same to you. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Do you want to add anything at all in, Jane, before we let you go?
I do. I'd just like to say I've just been watching these comments come up on the screen here, and it's brought tears to my eyes of what a loving and compassionate community this is. I was very, very nervous about tonight, and I'm not feeling well tonight. And you brought me good energy, and I felt very safe. So it was an honor to share with you, and I want to thank everybody here tonight. And thank you, Linda.
Oh, Jane, you are totally welcome. Thank you so much, given how you've been feeling, to be with us and share your story. So Heidi and Jane, thank you. Thank you. I'll be in touch with both of you.
Thank you. Good night.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.